Hello and welcome to the Takeaway Lesson Tutorial for World Citizen Certificate in Civility for General World Citizen Practitioners. This is for the bonus lesson, which was written by Marwan Asmar, a longtime affiliate and World Citizen Ambassador out of Lebanon. And Marwan is doing a PhD in AI and civility, and so this lesson is sort of a sneak peek of his thesis, and we're so proud of him and we're grateful for his willingness to share some of this insight with us, because there's no question as we move forward that AI is going to impact all of us in many different ways, and it's certainly necessary as a 21st century learning competency to have digital awareness and digital ability, but more importantly, even than that, the specification in terms of understanding and applying AI. So this is, as I mentioned, the bonus lesson, and so there are 5 lessons that go with this level 1, and we hope that you have reviewed all of them. This lesson would be offered as a supplement to whatever series or lessons that you're going to do about the World Citizen Core lessons. If you're moving on to take level 2, 3, or 4 in the World Citizen program, then you will need to study all of these lessons, and there is an exam that you can prepare for. So as we make our way through this lesson, it's devised the same way the other World Citizen lessons are. Of course, the theme here is related to leadership and responsibility related to technology and change. And as world citizens, you're going to use what you learn here in your role as world citizens, presumably when you are helping others with their communication, when you are leading teams, global awareness, research even. It ties to continuous learning and systems thinking. And so we want to raise awareness about what is required moving forward. If you're a teacher or a trainer, we will be using digital and AI aspects to teach and as learning tools. So there are skills that we need. And as leaders, we have to cope with this new normal of AI. It's a main player in business and corporate world. So because we're all citizens of the world, we have to acknowledge that technology puts us in touch with the rest of the world, that we have an opportunity to expand our worldview, to share our knowledge, to collaborate in problem solving. And so technology and increased globalization narrows the distance between us. And we have a great opportunity to understand how others live and work, and a great opportunity to share our knowledge and intellect as well. So although the word intelligence indicates a sort of superiority, AI is not about being better than human. Sometimes it's faster, but it's not always better. So leaders were and always will be an indispensable factor in decision making, and what we as leaders and world citizens need to change and modify are some of our skills in leadership. So in this way we can accommodate AI in our world and in our best practices in work or wherever we happen to be leading. So the objectives in this lesson are to help people understand AI, the role in corporations, and how it is an ally. And here we reference corporations, but it would apply to organizations as well. It might be not-for-profit. We want to be able to form new leadership skills and still preserve the human factor. And we want to create synergy between AI and the human factor. So civility certainly comes into play here, and we hope you enjoy this lesson. It's really quite forward-thinking. And so once again, thank you to Marwan Asmar for his creation of this lesson. So there's some great resources, as always, general information about AI, critical thinking and how it impacts leadership and the incorporation of machines, some general things about AI and leadership, some great YouTube clips, and I personally always start with the YouTube clips because then I feel I have a general understanding, and then I can get into the articles and so on and learn a lot more, learn and absorb a lot more. So we have a timeline for the lesson here. In this lesson in particular, I would suggest that you take extra time to review it, review the sources and resources, because if you're like me, while this is a fascinating topic, it's also pretty new to me. And so as the instructor in the room, I know that there may be people who are more technologically savvy than me, people who are better read in this topic, and so I want to make sure that I know something, or that I highlight that we can share our knowledge if somebody in the room knows more about it than maybe I do. So definitions are important here. Artificial intelligence is the ability of a computer or a computer-controlled robot to perform tasks that are commonly associated with intelligent human beings, right? So here we are. There's our definitions. We have an icebreaker idea. I would say review this link. There are a few options there where you can have people at least use their phone, incorporate an app. I mean, it certainly makes sense in this lesson to use some technology, right? Another key thing here is we want to help people not be fearful of AI. It's not meant to be alien or unknown, although it is new information and knowledge. Television and Hollywood and movies sometimes paint a picture of, machines out of control or taking over the world. So, I mean, we want to be careful that we highlight the pros and the cons. There are certainly some risks and dangers, but for the most part, for our purposes, we recognize the incredible and unlimited value of artificial intelligence as a learning tool and an opportunity to share intellect and information. So AI has no moral sense. It's humans that have to direct the human sense into it. So to a point, maybe you can teach a machine to analyze situations and choose the best or the most right option. But in terms of ethics or what we would describe as civility, this human kindness and the tonal aspect, the nuances of relationships and rapport, AI is really amazing already, but it's not quite human yet. And so there's aspects of morality and civility that humans need to monitor or control and safeguard in our AI-generated suggestions and solutions. So there's a handout here. We want to distribute the handout which highlights the benefits, the perils, and the human advantages of AI. And it's a good idea here for you to review the responses here we have. And you're going to leave, of course, the chart blank and let the participants come up with those answers. I'd give some time. They can Google it if they want. It doesn't really matter how they find the information as long as we can share it. So, to close off that activity, we want to make sure that people know that the perils really revolve around humans lacking control. And so we need new skills such that we can control the technology. So not all skills need to be modified, but, organizational lag is something that a lot of us suffer from. So we have to be able to be clear about what's happening around us and to adapt and anticipate and act accordingly. So the basic role of leaders seeking the welfare of an organization has not changed, even though technology has changed. So here is a list of some skills that we need to think of as leaders. We need to broaden the context. So we need to be able to envision the future. We need to look from the ground up in a holistic way at the processes and perspectives. And we need to incorporate human wisdom, that's what we've learned from experience, into those AI opportunities. We need to incorporate curiosity. We have to be aware of what can the technology do? How can we stay ahead of that? How can we ask the right questions so that we can monitor and control it? Time management, collaboration, communicating, cross-cutting, coaching. You can read the list here, and there are lots of skills that we need to incorporate. Some of these we already use in most of our leadership competency lists, but it's interesting that curiosity, collaborating, communicating, those are actually on the 21st Century Learning Framework, and we've started teaching curiosity and collaboration specifically to children as early as age 5, due in part to the fact that by age 5, many children are already very comfortable with digital devices. They understand so much more in terms of technology than some of us did in our 20s when all of this technology started advancing. So now that we've been introduced to AI and we know what kind of skills and knowledge we're going to have to improve to be able to meet the expectations of AI as leaders, we want to make sure that we can create a synergy of the artificial intelligence and the human factor, which is the wisdom, into all of these opportunities and applications. So this idea of synergy between the AI factor and the human factor is now being called augmented intelligence. And it has the same acronym, AI, so we have to be clear that we use them both appropriately. So the first real test of this synergy was through an experiment with chess champions. And the story is described here, but the idea is that we have 2 world champions, and now we ask them to look at, how do we combine the technical and mechanical ability to play chess and a machine playing chess, and the wisdom of a human playing chess. And so what we've discovered was that when we put these 2 teams together, these 2 players, they were able to outsmart the game more so than just AI teams could. So it's really kind of interesting. We're also looking at AI synergy in medical fields, where we want to address susceptibility to fatal diagnostics. So when the diagnostic is done solely through humans or AI, there is actually increased room for error. So it's important to incorporate the human piece in there as well. So augmented intelligence, you can read it, but COVID was a good example of how leaders have to generate tests and samples, and how we have to incorporate wisdom and common sense into our best practices. So, human decisions in data selection, voluntary testings, and feedback are an example of how there was synergy between the technology and the humans in dealing with COVID. So, as leaders, world citizens need to be able to judge recommendations of multiple synergies, and we need to be able to look at the big picture and the system's impact. So many researchers didn't come mostly from the smartest human partners combined with AI, but mostly from the interface between them. So there's this sort of camaraderie, this interconnectedness that we've talked about in previous lessons that is actually really critical to being able to leverage AI in an appropriate way. We hope that from a world citizen point of view that this synergy between AI and human wisdom can help us solve problems like poverty, food and water famine, those kind of things. So, one of the things we would ask you to get your participants to do is to make a list of steps that leaders should take concerning operation. So what can leaders do when it comes to AI to be able to leverage AI but still protect things? And so we've put 4 things there that you can suggest when you debrief this activity. So, on a final note, leaders should be able to use AI to free up time for them to use these high-touch civility behaviors. So really building rapport, getting eye to eye with people, connecting on this very solid human level, and let the machines do some of the other stuff, some of the assessment maybe, and then we do the face-to-face human feedback. In any case, the AI should also provide us with extensive and expansive data, and then we can use our wisdom and our intellect to make some good decisions. So I think it's really important also for us to consider from a civility and a world citizen point of view that there is fearfulness about job loss in certain sectors where AI will take over jobs that were once managed by humans. That there will be also jobs created, though, related to AI where humans have to build or make or manage the technology. And so it's just a matter of being open-minded, about being a continuous learner, being willing to be curious and ask questions, and critically be able to adapt and learn new skills. And this is really, I think, tantamount to survival overall, but particularly related to AI. Thank you.